Welcome to Livedaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom and welcome back to today's Daf, which is Pesachim Samach Gimel. We are 4 lines from the bottom of the Samach Beis Amud Beis. We learned yesterday that the shechita of the Korban Pesach needs to be for the sake of eaters, people who may eat the Korban, one who has a bris milah, as opposed to an aral. However, if there's dual intent, if he is doing the shechita for the sake of a mixed group, some of which are arelim, some of which are mulin, then the Korban Pesach is okay, because, as Rashi explained, even a kazayis needs shechita. So let the shechita of this korban apply to that person who is an eligible eater. Today we're going to have a machlokes in this topic. It says the Gemara 4 lines from the bottom. Tanya, we learned in the Bryce. Acherim oimrim. Gemara in Hurriya says that generally Acherim is a reference to Reb Meir, who was given an einish story there, and he was called Acherim. Acherim oimrim. So Reb Meir holds like this: whenever he has a shechita of a korban with a dual intent, for arelim and for mulin, it depends in which order he expressed his intentions. Hikdim mulim la'arelim kosher. If he preceded the mulim to the arelim, first he said, I'm being shechet for ones who have a bris, and then he said for arelim. In this case, since mulim came first, then the Korban Pesach is kosher. However, arelim l'mulim, pasul. If arelim preceded the mulim, it's possible. Says, well, what's the difference? In either case, it was a mixed group. Ma'ishna mulin la'arelim the kosher. Why is it that when mulin came before arelim, you say it's kosher? The kula arla be'inan, because in order for the korban to be pasul, that's only if it's for the sake of an entire group of arelim. Kula arla be'inan. Veleka, in this case, you don't have it because you have some non-arelim mixed in. If that's the case, then arelim l'mulim nami. If he said arelim and then mulim, there as well. Kula arla be'inan. In order for the korban to be pasul, that's strictly if it was intended for a group which was exclusively arelim. Veleka, in this case, we don't have it because he had dual intent. He had kavanah for arelim and for mulim. So what's the pshat in Reb Meir's psul? Says in Walemu Kasaver Achim, perhaps Achim Reb Meir would hold, Eina l'shchita ela basayf. This is a general shaila discussed in many sugis. What is the definition of shchita? We know it's a long process. First you cut through one pipe and the other, 2 simanim, until you complete the shchita. Is it a continuous, ongoing process, or perhaps does the shchita become activated and applied only at that very last moment, at the completion and conclusion of the ma'aser shchita? In which case the machshava hapoiseles, shalom lishmoi, etc., only gets applied at that last moment. If that's the case, perhaps Reb Meir holds, Eina l'shchita el basayf. The shchita only gets applied at the last moment. Ukad Rava, Damarava, Adayne machlokes. Rashi gives us the background to the statement of Rava, based on Gemara's Vachim. The point being that, according to Rabbi Meir, it's the last moment of shchita that is legally defined as shchita. If that's the case, we can very well understand Reb Meir's shita here. Why? Because if shchita would be a continuous, lengthy process from beginning to the end, then yeah, there's enough time available. It can accommodate 2 machshavas. 1 machshava gets applied here, 1 there. There's enough for 2. But if you hold it's only the last moment that is really defined as a shchita, you can't do one thing with 2 intentions. Both machshavas won't be applied together at that moment. It's either or. So which one is it? It's going to be the first one, because Reb Meir holds that you always grab the first expression, tfois lashon rishon, we ignore the second one. So that explains the shita. Continues the Gemara Hilkach. If that's the case, that it's only lebesoif, the shchita is only at the very end. Hilkach hiktim mulin la'arelim. If he said mulin then arelim, mulin chaylim. Mulin is chayli, it gets activated because it's either one or the other. There's no time available for both to be chal. It's one moment, it's one activation of the shchita, which can only relate to one machshava, to one intention. So whichever one he said first, that is what gets applied. So if Mulin was first, Mulin chayli, Arelim loy chayli. Mulin gets applied, but not Arelim, and the carbon is kosher. Hikdim Arelim Mulin. If the order was in the reverse, first he said, I'm doing it for the Arelim, and then he said for the Mulin, fine. Arelim chayli, Mulin loy chayli. In that case, it's going to be the Arelim that will be activated and applied, and not the Mulin. So perhaps that's the pshat. Rabbi holds it's the last moment of the shechita that is considered and defined as the activation of shechita. That's the case. Only one thing, one machshava, one kavana, one purpose can be applied, not two. So which one is it? The one he said first. Tfais lashon rishon. So that would be the pshat in Reb Meir. Amar Rabba or Amar Rava? No, not necessarily. You don't have to say that's a pshat in Reb Meir. Lo'olam kasavi achirim yeshna l'shchita m'tchila v'atzay. Perhaps Reb Meir will hold no. The shchita takes place continuously from beginning to end, through the first simon, through the second simon. So what's the pshat in the shita? V'achab ma'askinan. You know what we're speaking about? Kegoin shegomar b'liboy litarvayu. This fellow intended in his heart, he made up, this is going to be my kavanah. I'm being sheikha for the purpose of Mulin and Arelim. And he intended on expressing both those intentions. But what happened was that he ran out of time. He expressed his Arelim intent, and then he finished the shechita. By the time he got to the second part of his plan, it was past the shechita and too late. He didn't have a chance to say Mulin until he completed his shechita with only having said Arelim. So we have a case where he really wanted to say more. As far as the person's plan, as far as his purpose and his intention, it was Mulim and Arelim, or Arelim and Mulim. But he only got a chance to say one and not the other before the shechita was completed. And this is the machlokes between Rameh and the Rabban. Rameh Savar, even though he planned on saying Arelim and Mulim, what you say is what you have. We follow the expression, his words. What did he end up saying? Arelim? That's it. Even though he wanted to say more, he ran out of time. It's irrelevant. Rameh Savar, he knows that we follow the wording. The Rameh Savar loy be'inan piv v'liba shavim. We don't necessarily have to have your mouth, your expression, your words, and your heart and your kavanah lined up with one another. Although you planned on saying one thing, but you actually said a second thing, we follow what you say. We're living in a practical world. What you said, that's what gets applied. V'rabbana savri, no, be'inan piv v'liba shavim. His expression, his verbalization has to be aligned and consistent with what he had in mind. Otherwise, it has no validity. And this fellow, true, he only got to say Arelim before he ran out of time, but he wanted to say Mulim. That was his kavanah. He was being sheikhet with a dual intent. Therefore, the Rabbanan say it wasn't strictly for Arelim, and therefore the carbon is kosher. Whereas Reb Meir says, if you only got a chance to say Arelim, that's what gets activated. So it's a shechita l'shem Arelim, it's kula orla, and it's possible. Now, actually, Tosfos points out, we see from this Gemara that whenever we have in Kachim, we have Pigul, we have Shloi l'Shmai, and the Gemara always refers to it as a Psalm Achshava. We see from this Gemara very clearly that there needs to be an expression. Pigul or Shloi l'Shmai needs to be verbalized and expressed, because that's the context of our sugya. When the Gemara refers to it as Machshava, it simply means that the Dibur is an expression of the Machshava. He's doing the carbon with this purpose, with this plan in mind. Of course, it has to be expressed. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any psal to begin with. So this is important to remember. Whenever we have psal machshav and karbanos, of course, it needs to be verbalized. Rashi says the same thing. He says, "Kol machshava the kachim." Whenever we refer to machshava by kachim, moitzi bepivu. It means that he expressed it. So that's the second pshat in the Gemara. Again, everybody will hold that the shchita really is a continuous process, begins from the initiation till the conclusion. What happened was he intended on saying Arelim and Mulim. He waited till the last moment. He said the word Arelim, but he ran out of time. Shchita was up. Rameya says, okay, Arelim gets activated, and therefore it's possible. Chacham say, but in a pivali b'shavan. Just because he happened to say Arelim and he ran out of time, it's irrelevant. We follow his machshava. And Arelim doesn't carry much weight because it was really a shchita with a dual intent, for Arelim and for Mulim. The kasavar of Meir, like in a pivali b'shavan, is that the case according to Meir? You don't have to have the mouth and the heart aligned. V'raminu, we have a Mishnah, a Stam Mishnah, which is presumed to be a Meir, which tells us clearly that you need to have everything lined up with each other. HaMeskav alayim truma. This fellow wanted to say that this is going to be truma. V'amar ma'aser. A mistake, he said ma'aser. Ma'aser, he wanted to say ma'aser, v'amar truma. Instead he said truma. Oy she'eni nichnas l'bayezeh, meaning nether or shvua, I'm not going to enter this home. V'amar l'zeh, and he pointed to another one. She'eni nel l'zeh. He wanted to say, I'm not going to have enough from Ruvain. V'amar l'zeh, by mistake he said shim. Lo yom klum, it carries no weight. Why? Ad she'yu pivali b'shavan. Unless his mouth and his heart are on the same page, it carries no weight. Words are not an independent value. They're an expression of a person's intention, the person's machshav. So even Rameh agrees to that. So evidently that can't be pshat Rameh. Ela mar Abaye, says Abaye, the final pshat like this. Everybody perhaps agrees that shchita is a continuous process from beginning to the end. Everybody agrees you need to have pivali b'shavan. What then is the pshat Rameir, who says that if it was a magdim arelim to mulin is possible? So he said like this: Reisha, the first case of the Brisa, where mulim came before arelim, the Amar siman rishon l'mulin. It so happens that he said, look, the first siman, right, the first siman of the two simanim that are cut through by the shchita, the first one, siman rishon l'mulin, is intended for people who had a bris milah. V'siman sheni af la'arelim. Whereas the second siman is not only for mulin, it's also for arelim. So in this case, it's kasher. Why? Because firstly, the first siman was for mulin, for eichlin, and the second siman as well. The b'siman sheni nami psichi bei mulin. We have some mulin mixed into it. He said the siman sheni should also be for arelim, not only for mulin, also for arelim. So it's a mixture, and therefore it's kasher. That explains the first case. Now, in the second case, we're going to have machlek. Seifa de Amar, siman rishon la'arelim. He said the first siman should be intended for arelim, strictly for arelim. Siman sheni lemulin. However, the second siman should not only be for arelim, but also for mulin. So, in the second siman, you're okay because you have a mixed group, arelim and mulin. The problem is that in the first siman, the besiman rishon halei psichi bei mulin. You don't have any mulin mixed into it. It's strictly designated for arelim. But let's remember, we're only speaking about one siman. It's only half a shchita. Does that invalidate the carbon? So that's the basis of machlekes. Rameh Tamei. Rameh is following his shita, stated elsewhere, the Amar, Mefaglim b'chatzi mat. So a mater is a part of the hakrava process, which enables achila. So in this case, the shchita is a mater, because it enables its mater the basal achila. Now, the shchita has two elements, two simanim. Can a person have a machshava while he's engaged in a half a matter? Can he make pigel? Can he make psul when he's involved in only a half a matter? Such as in this case, where it's only on the first siman, which is a half a matter, half a shchita, that he had this machshava of arelim. Rameh holds, yeah, even a half a matter can have the same effect. Therefore, he says, when he applied arelim to the first siman, hikdim arelim umulim. Arelim came before mulim. Arelim applied to the first siman, and it was only exclusively for arelim. That's a half a matter. Rameh says a half a matter is enough to make the carbon possible. Mefagim b'chatzi matter. V'rabbanan, who say that it's kosher, litamai, they hold like their opinion, the Amri Ein Mefagel M'chatzi Mater. You can't create pigul if it's only half a matter. Here as well, even though the Simon Rishon was strictly for Areil, that's only a half a matter. It's a half a shchita. Just as you can't do pigul with a half a matter, you can't do psul of shloi loichlav while he's involved in only a half a matter, and therefore they hold, even if he said Areilim and then Mulim, meaning that Areilim was applied to the first simon, and only Areilim to that simon, it still won't make the carbon puzzle. So in summary, we learned in our Brisa, if you sheichet the carbon Pesach for Areilim and Mulim, so he did it in that order. First Areilim, then Mulim. Ray says puzzle, Rabban say kasha, and we had three ways to understand the machlekes. Initially, the Gemara says, well, machlekes is whether shchita is only l'besoif, it's only activated that very last moment, or it's a continuous process, mitchila v'atsoif. Rabbanan hold, it's mitchila v'atsoif. Therefore, if he says, I'm doing the shchita l'reilim l'mulim, this long shchita process can accommodate both intents, and therefore it's a mixed group. As long as there's somebody there that the shchita is enabling the achila for, then the carbon is kosher. Or May holds, shchita is just a split second. The last moment is when the shchita is activated. Therefore, it can accommodate two intentions. Which one will be applied? The one that he said first. Therefore, if he said Areilim and then Mulim, Areilim gets applied and it's possible. According to the next pshat in the Gemara, all agree that shchita is a continuous process, mitchila v'atzoif. The story was that he was at the very end of his shchita and he expressed a kavana for Areilim. But he wanted to say, also Mulim. But by the time he got to Mulim, he completed the shchita. Rameh says, we follow the expression. He said Areilim and no more. And therefore it's considered a shchita l'shem Areilim and it's possible. Rabbanan say, Pivali b'shavan. An expression of a mouth is useless unless it's based on machshava, on kanvana and intent. This fellow wanted to say Areilim and Mulim. Just because he happened to run out of time, this shchita is still considered a shchita for the sake of Areilim and Mulim and it's kosher. According to the final pshat in the Gemara, all agree that shchita is mitchilat soif. All agree you need to have the expression of his peh aligned with his machshava. What then is the machlekes? We're speaking where he said the first simon of the shchita is strictly for Areilim. Rameya says a chatzi mater is paisel. Rabbanan say only the full mater is paisel. In this case, the full mater are both simonim. And since only one simon was for Areilim, this carbon is kosher. Continues the Mishnah. Hasheichet es ha-pesach ala chametz. If one was to go ahead and do the shchita on a carbon pesach with chametz still in his possession, over b'loisase, he's over on a lav of loisishchat al chametz dam zivchi. Pesach and chametz don't go together; they're polar opposites. In fact, the Gemara back on Daf Hey learns that the requirement to get rid of one's chametz, mitzvah tashbisu, applies at the moment of the zman shchitas of Pesach. So you see that chametz and Pesach don't go together, at least the Pesach Rishon. So he's over and Eloisa say if he has chametz in his possession during the shchita, Rabbi Doimar af hatamid. The same thing applies to the carbon tamid. Which one? The afternoon tamid on Erev Pesach. If there's chametz in the possession of the shoichet, he's over on a lav. Rab Shimon Omer, it depends. He says not only is it going to apply to the Korban Pesach, but it also applies to other korbanos, provided that the korban is kosher, that the shchita is a kosher shchita. Rab Shimon Omer, ha-Pesach barba'a asar. If one does the shchita on the Korban Pesach on Erev Pesach, which is the zman of the Korban Pesach, lishmoy chay. If he does the shchita l'shem Pesach, in which case it's a shchita ru'uya, it enables the achil of the korban. It's a proper shchita. He is chayev upon doing the shchita with chametz in his possession. But v'shaloi l'shmoy potter. If he did the shchita shaloi l'shem Pesach, in which case it's possible. Rabbi Shimon holds an invalid shchita is not a player, and therefore there's no lav for this type of shchita with chametz. And actually, he's going to say that this lav applies to other karbanos as well, as we're going to see soon in the Mishnah. But perhaps before we proceed, let's take a look at Rashi. He dropped down to the widest lines in Rashi. Right in the middle, there's the first line, Masnisin. HaShoichet es HaPesach al chametz over b'lo yisaseh. Says Rashi, which lo yisaseh? Lo yisishchat al chametz v'goymer dam zivchi. Rabbi Yehuda adds the Talmud as well. Af hatamet sheben arbaim v'erev HaPesach sheshachta al chametz v'tam yel v'gemar. The Gemara will explain. Rabbi Shimon Omer HaPesach b'yedalt sheshachta al chametz. If he was sheichet the Korban Pesach on erev Pesach with chametz, lishmoi chayiv. If he did it l'shmoi, in which case the shechita is kosher, he's chayiv on account of the lav. Mishum lo yisishchat al chametz. The Pesach kosher. U'shchita ru'uyi. U'shma shchita. However, u'sheloi l'shmoi pater. Why? The pasalu. Since the shchita sheloi l'shmoi, it's for the sake of a different carbon. It's not a shchita kshera. We know that the shchita has to be l'shmoi. U'shchita she'enu ru'uya lav shma shchita. A shchita which is not right, which doesn't enable achila according to Reb Shimon, is not reckoned with. This is something he holds elsewhere as well, throughout the Shas. He subscribes to this view all over. An invalid shchita doesn't carry weight, is not regarded as a shchita. Bekisei adam, regarding kisei adam, but he says benoy, ub'tashlema bar chamisha, all over Shas. Reb Shimon holds a shchita which is improper, is not considered a shchita. So getting back to the Mishnah, Tanakama says this isser of doing with chametz applies to Pesach. Rabbi Yehuda adds Tamid. Reb Shimon says it needs to be a shchita kshira. So if it's erev Pesach, which is the zman of Pesach, he takes his carbon and his shechet lishmai with chametz is over. But shaloi lishmai, in which case it's not a proper shchita, is not over. But not only does this apply to the carbon Pesach, it applies to other karbonos as well. However, during the Zman Pesach, then this Isser is unique to Pesach. But if it's anywhere else throughout Yom Tov, Cholamoid, in which case it's not a Zman Shchitas Korban Pesach, then this Isser will apply to other Korbanos as well, your Oila, your Shlomim, provided that it's a Shchita Ksher. So again, on Erev Pesach, this halacha is exclusive to Pesach. If it's a Korban Kosher, was a Shchita L'Shmoy, is Chai. But if he does the same when he's involved in processing other karbanos, oila, shlomim, on erev Pesach, bein l'shman, whether he did them l'shem that carbon, bein shaloi l'shman, potter. Either way, even if that carbon is going to be kosher, because we know that when it comes to other karbanos, other than Pesach and Chatos, even if it's shaloi l'shma, it's kosher. But since we're speaking on erev Pesach, when it's the Zman Shchitas Pesach, says Reb Shimon, this Isser of Leisishchat al Chametz Daf Zivchi only applies to Korban Pesach and not to other Korbanos. Whether they're kosher, whether they're Lishman, whether they're Shlo Lishman, is always going to be pot. However, Uba Moed, on Pesach itself, for instance on Chol Moed, now it's not a Zman Shchitas Pesach. So it's going to apply to other Korbanos as well, provided they're kosher. So if he takes the Korban Pesach, and instead of being Erev Pesach, it's already Chalamoid past the Zman Pesach. Lishmoy Potter. If he's Shechet L'Shem Pesach, it doesn't work. It's possible. So now it's a Shechita She'en Ru'ya, and therefore he's Potter on account of having Chametz in his possession. Shaloi Lishmoy, if he does a Shechita on this Korban Pesach, past the Zman, right? It's already Chalamoid, and he does a Shaloi Lishmoy, for instance, he's having Shlamim in mind. What is the halacha? We learned this yesterday, that a Korban Pesach after this man has a din like a shlamim, in which case it's a Korban kosher. So since he did it with chametz, he's chayiv. U'sharkal asvachim. Now regarding other korbanos, oilos and shlamim, on chalamoid, let's say, bein lishman, whether it was lishman, bein shaloi lishman or shaloi lishman, chayiv, because when it comes to other korbanos, either way it's kosher, and since he has chametz, he's chayiv. Except for one thing, chutz min achatas, sheshachta shlo yishmoi, because a chata shlo yishmoi is possible. So once again, we have a shchita which is improper and invalid and ineruya, and therefore, if it was done with chametz, he is not chayiv. So in conclusion, Tanakama says the Isra of Leisishchat al Chametz Dam Zivchi applies only to Karban Pesach. Rabbi Yehuda adds the Tomei Shel Ben Habayim as well. On Erev Pesach, Rav Shimon says it applies to other Karbanos as well. However, we have two rules. Number one, it has to be a Shechita Ru'uya. Number two, if it's on Erev Pesach, this is Man Shechitas Karban Pesach, then this halacha only applies to Karban Pesach. If it's any other time throughout the Yom Tov of Pesach, then it will apply to other Karbanos as well. Omer Reb Shimon ben Lakish, La'olam ein chayiv. This chiv only applies only ashiyehei hachametz l'shoichet elizurk. If the chametz is belonging to the shoichet or the zurek, oila echad b'bnei chabura, or to any member of the chabura who joined together to form a chabura for this Karban Pesach, as opposed to if the chametz belongs to a stranger who is unrelated to this Karban. He's not the shoichet, he's not the zurek, he's not even a member of the Karban. In that case, even if the chametz belonging to that fellow is present here in the Azor, the Makim Akrava, no harm was done. So that's number one. Number two, says Rish Lakish, where is this chametz to be found? In his home, or does it have to be in the Makim Akrava? Va'ad shehi imoy ba'azor. He's only chayiv if the chametz is together with the Karban in the Azor and the Makim Akrava. That's his sheet. The Karban Pesach, which is being hukrav with chametz, that's this. But if the kohen who is doing the shechita happens to still have some chametz back home, that doesn't connect to the akrava of the Karban Pesach. Rabbi Yechon Amar no, afa b'she'eni b'azor. Even if the chametz is not together with him in the Azor, he has some chametz in his possession, in his property back home. He's over on the lav of Leisishchat al Chametz Dam Zivchi. But my kamifli, what's the basis of this machlekes? Perhaps it's a question of defining the word al, Leisishchat al Chametz Dam Zivchi. Ilay, shall we say, ba'al b'samach kamifli? The question is, whenever the Torah uses the word al, is it strictly referring to close by, within close proximity? The Reb Shimon ben Lakish Savar, he holds al b'samach, it needs to be close by. Leisishchat al chametz means the chametz is right here. Rabbi Yechon Savar loy be'in al b'samach. We don't necessarily require al to be referring to something really close by, and therefore even if it's back home, as long as it's in his possession, he is chayiv. If that's the case, we have some difficulty because they already discussed this question elsewhere. And why the repetition? They already had this machlekes elsewhere. This not. Hashechet toida lifnim. We know that a Karban toida comes with some lechem, and as Rashi will explain for us, when does the lechem acquire its higher kedusha? Only through the shechita of the toida. So being that that's the case, that the shechita of the Karban affects and is makadosh the lechem, where does the lechem have to be during the shechita? Hashechet toida lifnim. If one does the shechita on the Karban toida inside the Azor, where it's meant to be, v'lach mechutz l'chem, and the lechem of the toida happens to be outside the wall of Yerushalayim, loy kiddush halechem. The lechem doesn't become kaddish. Now, what exactly is chutz l'chem? So I said outside Yerushalayim. It's actually machlokes. My chutz l'chem. Where? How far is this lechem? Rabbi Yechon Amar chutz l'chem is Beis Pagi. Beis Pagi was the outermost point of Yerushalayim. This lechem is beyond that. It's outside of the wall of Yerushalayim. So it's not even in a place where you can eat the kachim. It's outside Yerushalayim. It's too far gone. It can't relate to the Karban. Therefore, the Mishnah says the shechita of the Karban in the Azor will not be mekadosh that lechem. Aval chutz l'chem it's Azor kadosh. But if it's merely right outside the Azor, it's sitting in Yerushalayim, but it's outside of the Makim Akrava, that's close enough. And the Karban is mekadosh lechem. V'loy be'inin al b'samach. Although the pasuk there also says al. Karbanai al zevach. That the Karban is mekadosh. The zevach is mekadosh the lechem. You don't have to have it so close by. Let's take a look at Rashi. Rashi here is the second line from the top. Bifnim. So you shechted the Karban toida inside. Be'azora, says Rashi. And Rashi explains for us that lachmi toida mishehugdushu bepeh kachuk kedusha's dam. So the first stage of kedusha by the lachmi toida is kedusha's dam for its value. So if he expresses kedusha, as a mekadosh lechem, it attains some lower form of kedusha. Hadn't yet attained the higher level of kedusha to become inherently kaddish. What is that? Nitmu niftin. At this point, when it's still kedusha's damim, it's only a value kedusha, a monetary kedusha. If it becomes tummy, you can redeem it. It's in the chulin. Ushchitas hazevach, however, is mekachosan legufan. That will make it an integral part of the korban. It's kedushas haguf. It's intended for the kayin to eat it as part of the akrab, as part of the achilas hakorban. Lias nifsolim betfil yoyim. So if a tfil yom touches it, it becomes tummy. It's very sensitive. Uvamagam chosakipur ubelina. V'imnitmu yisarfu. How do we know that the shchita does that? Kedechsev al zevach hatoy dechalis. V'amar b'menachos korbonai al zevach. What does that teach? Just malamed. Shen alechem korban. When is it considered a korban? Attaining this higher status of kedusha. Elo bezvicha. The zvicha does it. So if this toida happens to be in the azara, but at lechem outside of the chayma, loy kiddush alechem kedusha zaguf. Where is outside the chayma? Says Rabbi Yechon, way outside of Yerushalayim, beyond base pagi. Haynu makim chitzin Yerushalayim. That's the outer point of Yerushalayim. Hasam u'duchutz l'chayma says pagi. Chutz Yerushalayim u've'enu makim achilas kachim kalam. So over there, since the toida, the lachmi toida, are outside of the chayma of Yerushalayim, which is not even a place where you can eat kachim kalam. It's not even, it doesn't relate at all to karbanis. If the carbon would leave Yerushalayim and go out to that place, it would become puzzle. So it's beyond the realm, the domain of kedusha, of kachim. Over there, the shchita certainly cannot be mekadosh. But if it would be right outside the azara, so although it's not in the makam akrova, since it's still in a place where it's suitable for achilas kachim, shapir dami, that's enough. Oh, al doesn't necessarily mean it has to be close by. It doesn't need to be in the makam akrova. Continues the Gemara. Even if the lechem happens to be outside the azor, it doesn't become kaddish. It doesn't get affected by the carbon. You need to have a hakrava in unison. It has to be together with the lechem. Alma be'inan al basamach. Apparently, according to Rish Lakish, the word al denotes closeness, and closeness and proximity very, very close by. So this discussion, the translation of al, was already discussed elsewhere. Why would they have to have the same discussion again regarding the chametz with the carbon pesach? So apparently this is not the basis of their machlekes. Ella says the Gemara, what is the background of this machlekes? Again, we're speaking about the lav, leisishchat al chametz dam zivchi. Where is the chametz situated during the akrova? Reb Shimon Lakish says it needs to be inside the azora, together with the carbon. Rabbi Yechon says even if it's outside the azora, anywhere in the possession of the shoichet or the zorik or the one of the bnei chabur, that's enough. What's the basis of the machlekes? Ella says the Gemara basros safek kamifleki. Machlekes is whether an uncertain warning, is that considered a hasra? So if it's here in the azara, then the edim who are warning him, don't do it, don't do the lav. They know he has chametz, they see it right here. But if it's not here, they don't necessarily know about it. They don't know with certainty that he has chametz in his possession, since they don't see it. So although they're warning him, don't get involved in an issa. Why are you doing the shechita? If you have chametz, on what basis are they saying it? It's a suffix. The question is, does asra suffix carry weight? That's the point of the machlekes. Ela basra suffix kamifleki. Rav Shimon Lakish says, doesn't count as a hasra. So unless it's here and they see it, he won't get malchus. Whereas Rabbi Yechon says, even a hasra suffix, even a warning, on account of his suffix, on a chance, is also called asra, and therefore if he happens to have chametz, even at home, he will get malchus. Could that be the machlekes? B'hanami, hopligi b'chadazimna. They actually had this discussion already elsewhere as well. The itmar, shvu she'ochel kikar zuhayim. Person makes a shvu, I'm going to eat this loaf of bread today. and the Edom tell him, look, you better sit down and have this loaf because the day is over and you haven't eaten it. You were over the Shvuah. And what happened? He ignored their warning. They passed and he hadn't eaten the loaf. Now this is really Asra Safek, because they don't really know whether they will pass without him eating or not. So what is halacha? Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon Lakish, the Amatavai, they both hold ain't a like it. He doesn't get malchus, but it's for different reasons. Rabbi Yochanan Omar ain't a like mishum dahavale lav shein beimas. This is a passive lav. He sat on his hands. He hadn't eaten the loaf. It wasn't an active avera. V'chol lav shein beimas, any lav that doesn't entail it, an act, a ma'isa, a like lav. Aval asra safek shma asra. So the fact that it's a passive avera, that's why he doesn't get malchus. But if it would have been a masa, he would have gotten malchus. Despite the fact that it's an uncertain asra, because he holds, Rabbi Yochanan holds, asra safek is considered asra. So that's his shita. Rabbi Shimon Lakish Amar ain't a like it. He doesn't get malchus, but for a different reason. Mishum dahavali asra safek, because it's only asra on a chance. Asra safek lo shma asra, and doesn't count. Aval, but according to Rabbi Shimon Lakish, lav shein b'maisa like lav. He holds that even a lav doesn't have a masa, generates malchus. So according to both Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, there will be no malchus, but for different reasons. According to Rabbi Yochanan, because it's a lav shein b'maisa. According to Rish Lakish, because asra safek. So this doesn't seem to be the basis of the machlekes by us, where the chametz is situated, and that's based on whether asra safek is valid, because they already discussed that elsewhere. Says the Gemara Amri, the Gemara responds by saying like this: okay, certainly let's go back. Actually, let's go back to the initial suggestion. Ba'al b'samach kamiflik machlekes between Rechon and Shlokish is regarding how to define the word al. Leisishchat hachametz al zivchi. Leisishchat al chametz dam zivchi. Right. The question is what al means. According to Shimon Lakish, al is b'samach, and therefore it has to be in the azor. According to Rabbi Yochanan, al could even mean at a distance, and therefore it could be outside the azor as well. Actually, that's the machlekes. Lo'ilam ba'al b'samach kamiflik. Your question was, why the repetition? Didn't they already discuss this topic elsewhere by the lachmei toida, whether it has to be in the azor together with the toida or not? Utzricha, yeah, the repetition is necessary. Each one has a chesh. The if ligu le'inyan chametz. Were they only to have the machlekes regarding chametz? Hava amina, perhaps I would contemplate. But who took over Rabbi Yochanan? The loy beinan al b'samach. Yeah, it's over there. By chametz, the Rabbi Yochanan does not require the al to mean right here. Why? Mishum the isru. Having chametz is an isr. V'choleicha the isay, wherever it is, it's asr. He has an isser to have chametz in his possession, regardless of whether it's here or not at home. So, this having chametz negates his akrava, regardless of whether the chametz is here or not here. Aval le'inyan migdash lechem, perhaps when it comes to be mekadesh the lechem of the toida, like kadesh ela b'fneim. Over there, the lechem is only kadesh inside. What does that mean inside? It has to be at least in Yerushalayim. There's a location for that lechem. It can't be anywhere. So perhaps over here he's masking. He agrees to Rish Lakish. To be an al b'samach. In that case, we do interpret al as meaning very close by. The isei gavoi kaddish. If the lechem is inside, together with the carbon in the azar, it becomes kaddish. Eloi, but otherwise like kaddish. Why? Mida dahava klisharis. Because it's just like a klisharis. Rashi says that a klisharis is only mekadesh, something that comes into the kli. Tosa says that what's the connection between a klisharis and a carbon that's mekadesh? He says that mida dahava klisharis means that a klisharis only has the ability to mekadesh something when the klisharis is in the azar and the makom hakrav. Likewise, the lechem of the toida can only become kaddish unaffected by the carbon toida when it's in the azar and the makom hakrava. The carbon can only be kaddish in the Makam Akrava. Perhaps Rabbi Yechon would agree in that case that it needs to be close by Tzrich. That's why it was necessary to discuss their machlekes regarding Lachmei Toida, and the Chiddush is that even there, Rabbi Yechon holds, the bread doesn't have to be near the carbon. Now the reverse. If we would have only presented the machlekes regarding b'mekadosh Lachmei Toida, Havamina, perhaps I would say, Bahach, Ka'amar Rab Shimon Lakish, the bin Abba Samach. It's only over there. The Rab Shimon Lakish requires the lechem to be close by. Di isek avoy kaddish, because if it's inside, if it's in the makam akrava, and the akrava is in tandem with the lechem, yeah, then it affects the lechem. Eloi, but otherwise, if it's outside of the makam akrava like kaddish, it can't be mekadosh the lechem. That's over there. Aval in chametz. But when it comes to chametz, perhaps my delay the Rabbi Yochanan, he agrees to Rabbi Yochanan loy bein Abba Samach. If he does a shchita on the Karban Pesach with some chametz elsewhere, anywhere in his possession, perhaps you don't need the al to be right here. Why? For the reason we mentioned earlier, the isuru, because it's an isur to have chametz in your possession from chatzais onward. And wherever he is, meaning he's being over on the isur regardless of whether chametz is here or there. So perhaps let's assume when the Torah says don't shech the Pesach with chametz, it was referring to chametz anywhere in his possession. Perhaps he would agree to Rabbi Yochanan that the chametz anywhere generates the isur. Tzricha, that's why we need to present their machlekes here as well by chametz. And the point is that in both situations, whether it's by shchitas Pesach ala chametz, or whether it's in the case of shchitas hatoidet and mekadosh lechem, they both consistently hold that their definition of al is the one meant to be applied. According to Rabbi Yochanan, al is not besamach even at a distance, and according to Rishon and Lakish, al in both cases means close by. So here's Rav Ami the following question. The Gemara before said that if the chametz belongs to the shochet, or the kohen that did the zrika, or to any one of the bnei chabura, that generates the chi of the malchus. Meaning, if the kohen who did the shchita has some chametz and he did the shchita, he's over. If the kohen who did the zrika has some chametz at home and he did the zrika, he's over. If any one of the members of the korban, the bnei chabura, have chametz and the kohen did the shchita or the kohen did the zrika, despite the fact that there was chametz in the possession of the bnei chabura, there's malchus. So the Gemara mentioned that earlier. But Rav Oisha was not aware of that element, the Bnei Chabur element, and therefore he posed it as a question. Let's say the sheikh does not have chametz in his possession. But one of the members of the korban, one of the owners, has chametz. Where's Allah here? Amar lei, so he responded, the same thing applies there. Does then the Torah say, don't do shchita with your chametz? Torah is simply saying, don't be sheichel when there's chametz, whether it's yours or whether it's somebody else's. Amar lei, so he responded, if that's the case, so even if there's chametz that belongs to a stranger, unrelated, unconnected to this korban, and that chametz happens to be the azara, there should be lav here, because it's referring to anybody's chametz. Omar later responded, Omakra. The pasuk says, "Lo yisishchat al chametz dam zivchi, v'lo yolam laboker zevach chag hapasach." So you'd make a drush as follows: Lo yisishchat v'lo yolam. We connect the isur shchita to the isur of bal tolan. Who is meant to look after this korban to ensure that it's eaten tonight and not left overnight until tomorrow? Who's that? Who's responsible? The Bnei Chabura, the group, the members of the korban. So if they have chametz, that poses a concern. But if just a stranger happens to have chametz, that doesn't relate to this korban. Lo yisishchat v'lo yolam. We say a drasha like this: Lo yisishchat al chametz. The kohen may not be sheichet this korban when there is chametz. Chametz by who? By Hanach, by these individuals. The kam yolei mishum lo yolam, are responsible for the korban to make sure there's no lina here. So if the Shoichet, or the Zurek of the Korban Pesach, does so when there is chametz in possession of either themselves or the Bnei Chabura, then that generates the lav. Omar Rav Papa, Hilkach, based on this, that there's a concern of being in possession of chametz by an individual who is responsible to look after the korban, to ensure that it doesn't remain overnight. Hilkach, if that's the case, let's add another person to the list. Kohen hamaktir sachelev. The kohen who is being maktir the chelev of the korban pesach on the mizbeach, if he should have chametz in his possession, why? Because he also needs to look after the korban. He has to make sure the emurin, the inside, the chelev, doesn't remain till morning. So he's also a player. And as part of the equation, he also cannot have chametz in his possession. Tani was the Rav Papa, we have a right to Rav Papa, that the kohen hamaktir sachelev is also on this list. The Brisa says like this: Hashoichet es haPesach al chametz oyer b'leis hasei. Ema say, when is that a concern? Bizman shehu lishoichet or lizorik or leechad bnei chabur. When the chametz belongs either to the shoichet or to the zorik or to one of the bnei chabur. Hoyer leechad b'sefer olam. But if the chametz happened to belong to somebody else, ein zokek loy, there's no concern. Ve'echad hashoichet, ve'echad hazorik, ve'echad hamaktir chayv. Here's the right to Rav Papa. The shoichet, the zorik, and even the maktir is held accountable for this lav. So you see that even the maktir sachelev cannot have chametz in his possession. Continues the Brisa. Aval hamoilek esoif barba asa. But if a person should do malika, right, the kohen takes his nail and cuts off the head of the bird. So this malika done on arba asa with chametz doesn't generate a lois hasei. Eino over b'lei klum. There's no isser because this is not a korban pesach, and the isser of leisishchat al chametz on erev pesach belongs to a korban pesach, but not to a different type of korban. So in this Brisa we have 2 points. Number 1, the maktir sachelev is included in this list, and number 2, malika with chametz poses no concern. V'ramini, we're going to have a stira from another Brisa where it says things the exact opposite. Hashoichet es haPesach al chametz oyer b'leis hasei. Rabbi Doimer afa tamid. The same regarding tamid sheben abayim and our Pesach. If it's done with chametz, there's a leis hasei. Amru lois, they responded to him, lo amru el Pesach levad. This halacha only applies to Pesach. Okay, continues the Brisa. Emasai, when is chametz a concern? Bizman sheish l'shoichet, when it belongs to the shoichet or l'zorik or l'echad bnei chabur. Hoyel echad b'sefer oilo, belong to anybody else who was unrelated to the korban. Ein zokek loy, he need not be concerned about that chametz. Ve'echad ha'shoichet, ve'echad ha'zorik, ve'echad ha'moilek, ve'echad ha'mazachayv. Whether he did shchita with chametz, zrika with chametz, even malika on a bird, or mazah, he applied the dam from the bird onto the mizbeach, he is chayv. So we see that malika of an oif with chametz is chayv. Aval ha'kometz as a mincha, that's a different story. Kmitza on a mincha, that's not called leisishchat al chametz, and therefore ein oif b'leis hasei. Ha'makter seimur, if one is makter the imurin of the korban pesach with chametz, ein oif b'leis hasei. There's no leis hasei. So you have a double stira. In Brisa number 1, we said the kohen who's makter the imurin is included in this equation. We also said malika generates no chiv. Whereas in Brisa 2, we have just the opposite. Malika generates chiv, makter seimur is potter. Says the more kasha malika malika. We have a steer from one malika on the other. Kasha aktar aktar. We have a steer from one aktar on the other. Now, according to you, let's take a look at the Brisa number 2. On its own, it's going to be inherently difficult to understand. Tikshalachi gufa. The Brisa on its own seems to be difficult to understand. Why? Well, the Brisa begins by saying, Diktani, lo yamru b'pesach b'vad. This issue of doing things with chametz only applies to the korban pesach. And then the Brisa continues, echad ha'shoichet. Applies to a shoichet, v'echad ha'zorik, v'echad ha'moilek, v'echad ha'mazah. So which one is it? Is it only to Pesach, or to even a bird? Even malika? Ella, So you must interpret the brisa like this. We have a kasha within the brisa. So we have to say like this. Hava Rabbi Shimon. Both brises, number 1 and number 2, are both following Rabbi Shimon Shita, mentioned now Mishnah, that on Erev Pesach, this only applies to the Korban Pesach. But if it's on the Yom Tov itself, on Chol Hamoed, then it will apply to other Korbanos as well, including a knife. So based on that, we can understand Pshat in the Brisa and answer the contradiction between both Brises. Malika lekasha. The question regarding Malika, Brisa number 1 says Malika is Pater, Brisa number 2 says it's Chayiv. Lekasha, the answer is, depends when it's taking place. Kan ba'asar, the first Brisa is speaking about Erev Pesach, which is the Zman Shchitas Pesach. In that case, this Isser of Chametz only applies to Pesach and not to a bird. Kan b'chol Moed. The second Brisa is speaking about Chol Moed, which is not as Zman Shchitas Pesach, in which case the Isser of being makriv with Chametz applies to other Korbanos as well, including Malika. V'idi Reb Shimoni. And both Brisa are following Reb Shimon, who says that the Isser of Chametz applies to other Korbanos, provided that it's not as Zman Shchitas Pesach. Haktorah Namid Kasha. Regarding the stira of Haktorah, Brisa number 1 told us the kohen who's makted the chaylev of the Korban Pesach with chametz generates a lav. Brisa number 2 said he's pater. Like kasha, that can be answered as follows. Tanoi, actually, this discussion is a machlokes Tanoi. The ikad the makish Haktorah l'shchita. There are those that connect Haktorah to shchita, because the pasuk says lo yisisbach al chametz dam zivchi v'lo yolen chaylev chagi ad boiker. We say just as the shoichet, if he has chametz, he's over. The one who is maktir, the emurin, with chametz also gets the lav, because as we said earlier, he has to look after the korban to ensure there's no lina. So he holds of that in, like our Papa said. That's Brisa number 1. V'ikaman delay makish. However, in Brisa number 2, that reflects a shita of the one who's not makish, doesn't connect Haktorah's emurin to shchita. He doesn't hold to this drasha. One who has to look after the emurin is responsible. No. Only the sheikh, the zurik, but not the maktir emurin. So in summary, we learned about the lav leisishchat al chametz dam zivchi, which applies to the sheikhet, to the zurik. Regarding the maktir chaylev, we have machlokes. Now, which korban we're speaking about? According to Menachem, we're speaking about the korban Pesach, done with chametz. According to Rabbi Yehuda, even the Talmud should be on Abayim on Erev Pesach. According to Rabbi Shimon, if it's a shchita kshera, then on Erev Pesach it applies only to the korban Pesach. Elsewhere during Yom Tov, it applies to other korbanos as well. Now, where is this chametz situated? According to Rish Lakish, with the korban Pesach in the Azor, because al means besamach. According to Rabbi Yechanan, anywhere in his possession will generate the lav of the Sishchat al Chametz Dam Zivchi. Okay, let's make a quick chazor of today's daf. We began from machlokes in the case where a person is sheikhah the korban Pesach, l'shem areilim and mulim. According to Rameir's puzzle, we have 3 ways to explain the machlokes. We proceeded to the lav of the Sishchat al Chametz Dam Zivchi, which applies to the sheikhah, to the zurik, perhaps to the maktir emurin, when they own chametz, or even one of the bnei chabura. But certainly, if somebody else who's unrelated to the korban owns that chametz, that poses no concern whatsoever, all the best, and hatzlacha rab.